Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. I'm John. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday evening or whenever you may be listening to the show. We're so glad to have you here in the base because we got a good one planned for you. Again, I'm John. With me as always, Lacey Gilleran. James,
Hey.
James a bit under the weather. He had to, I'm just going to say he had to go to the ER, but he's okay and he's home and he's going to be fine, but he isn't going to be able to join us tonight. So we're also not sure what's going on for Monday's show. But James is okay. But if you want to hit him up to wish him well, at Myra Trunks, obviously on social media, Instagram and X. And then if you are a patron, you know, you could hit him up in the Discord. But so feel better, James. He will be back, of course. But we're going to roll on here, Gilleran. And I want to ask you something. I don't know how you're going to handle this, but do you think John Boyega and Oscar Isaac, one or the other, or both, are going to come back and be in the Ray movie? As we stand here today, I know we've talked about it before, but we're inching closer. We're hearing more things. What do you think today?
Well, seeing as we put out a poll and I did answer the poll. I said both. I think they're both going to come back. Oscar originally was like, only if I need a new house or something like that. And John was like, never Disney Plus me. And I feel like they've both come around on that, especially Oscar. Like he has been like, well, I'd have to see a script, or like, oh, well, I don't know. I go back to what I said last week, which is if the paycheck is big enough, anybody will do anything. I stand by that.
Yeah. I would do Star Wars if the paycheck was big enough.
I'd do Star Wars if there wasn't a paycheck.
I know.
I'm being honest. But some people have more need to be paid than I do.
Even if you were Jabba's like right leg or tail or something. He doesn't have a right leg. His tail.
How epic would that be, though? I get to be like, I was in that suit. And then I get to go to all the Comic-Cons being like, I am Jabba's arm.
You know that part where he's getting choked and his tail goes, blah, 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 blah. That was me. That was me. Yeah. Someone right now, I assume they're still alive, can say that. They were like, I was in the tail. I don't know if it was like Phil Tippett or one of those guys, but they were in there in the dirty, smelly rubber making Jabba come to life.
My favorite is still the Rancor story where he said his hand got so swollen he had to eat lunch with his other hand while his hand was up inside the butt of the Rancor puppet.
Those stories are the best because it really makes you like just put everything in perspective. You know, when people take it seriously with Star Wars, you're like, go listen to Phil Tippett talk about how they named Salacious Crumb or
I love Phil Tippett.
Calamari Man. you know? But the poll results, we posted this today. So thanks everybody who voted. Said both will return. 45% said both will return. 25% said just John Boyega. Only 7% said just Oscar Isaac. And 22%, so 1 out of every 5 people, said neither will return. So we'll find out as we march closer to that movie starting production, which might be soon. We'll talk about that in a little bit in Resistance Report. You ready to run Resistance Report, by the way? Not yet, but I'm saying you ready?
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So for everyone joining us now, if you're joining us live, we are doing Ask the Resistance at the end of the show. So if you have any questions you want us to talk about on the show, drop it in the live chat. Use the hashtag so we know your question is for the show. And of course, we have super chats. If you want to light speed your way to the front, those will get priority, of course. And we thank you for any of those as well to support the show. And then the last shout out will go to our patrons at patreon.com/resistance broadcast. The lifeblood of TRB. What you see on the show is made by the three of us. We all have families. We all have kids. We all have jobs. And we put a lot of time into making this podcast work. And your support allows us to keep doing that at the volume we do it and continue to grow the show. So if you have been a listener for a while and you're interested, maybe Santa threw you some shekels and you're like, I want to support my favorite Star Wars podcast. Go, not Star Wars Santa on our chat, just the real Santa. Go to
Mhm.
patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Tiers start at $5, and we appreciate it. And there's a lot of cool content on there. We're actually doing a spice run after this live show on Patreon. One of our spice runners, David Probus, will be joining us. We'll be doing it
David's the best.
exclusively on Patreon with Proby1, Graybeard the Spice Runner, David Probus. So look
Mhm.
forward to that. He's probably in the chat right now, getting ready to go. All right, Lacey, it is time to talk about the latest news. So let's fire up the Resistance Report.
It's the Resistance.
All right, guys, it's time for Resistance Report. We're covering the news this week of everything that happened in Star Wars. So first up is a pretty big story for fans of the Bad Batch who have been waiting for this trailer for like the longest time. Cue Billy Joel music. The trailer came out this week for everybody that's been waiting, season 3. And not only that, they released a poster and the dates of when all the episodes are coming out. There was a lot of attention and noise online about these, the trailer and everything else announced, because there were a lot of characters thrown into that trailer. So if you're not looking to know, this is the time to pause or come back in a little bit once we're done talking about it.
How do
I don't want to spoil you.
How
Yeah.
do people do, like, people say, like, I don't even watch the trailers and stuff. And I get that, I guess, but I wonder how people navigate, unless they're just not online at all. Like, I'm not even saying just Twitter or whatever, but like these things get talked about and they're in articles, they're in images. Like, if
I
people
mean,
genuinely can avoid things, that to
Mhm.
me is impressive.
It's impressive. And then also the craziest thing I saw this week is it happened with, like, no joke, 7 different either big creators or news sites or whatever. They would say, how about that character? And they'd put like that in stars or whatever in the
Mhm.
trailer. And then in the tweet was the photo of the character that they were saying
Yeah.
that character about. To which
Yeah.
my response is like, why don't you just say who it is if you're gonna show the picture? It was a little weird.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm giving everybody a chance now. If you don't want to know what's going on with the Bad Batch trailer and some spoilers, now's the time to jump off and come back in a little bit. Probably 5 to 10 minutes. We'll see you then. All right.
1 to 10.
So getting into it, 5 to 10. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. All right, guys. So it's picking up after the events of season 2. The trailer includes some new creatures and familiar faces. This is from StarWars.com, including Wanda Sykes Fee, and ends with the shocking appearance of fan favorite Sith apprentice turned free agent Asajj Ventress. This is the one that everybody's going nuts about, like straight
crazy.
bananas.
Yeah.
We do have some quotes here from Brad Rao, supervising director and one of the executive producers, who said, "We love Asajj Ventress. She's a character that we've been wanting to tell more stories about. We don't want to spoil anything, but want fans to know that any new storytelling with Ventress will align with the events of Star Wars Dark Disciple." So for those of you that don't know, Star Wars Dark Disciple is a book written by Christy Golden, and I am so happy for her this week because she had said that after this trailer came out, the book focuses on Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Voss. So that book went from like 100,000 on the list for Amazon, and it's jumped up to the 300s, like since the
That's
trailer
nuts.
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
wild.
so happy for her.
Yeah.
Really, really great. And I'm happy for all the people that are big Ventress fans. As with any character in Star Wars, there's always a group of people that are rallying behind that or standing that character. But yeah, so the first 3 episodes, this is kind of crazy. They're giving you 3 episodes, come out on Wednesday, February 21st. And I believe every additional episode will come out on the Wednesdays. So February 28th, March 6th, March 13th, March 20th, March 27th. April 3rd, we'll have 2 episodes, 10 and 11. April 10th, 17th, 24th, and ends on May 1st with the 15th episode, which is the last episode of the Bad Batch. They've made it very clear that this is the last season.
Yeah.
They also threw out a poster that has Hunter's mask on it with like flames and sparks and stuff. That's like, dun, 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 this is serious. So John, what are your reactions to all of that, to the trailer itself? What are your thoughts?
I liked the trailer a lot. I'll start with the thing I didn't like, which was I actually didn't like the trailer music. I think like when I was watching the trailer the second time, I closed my eyes and I was just listening to it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
this is like very Hans Zimmer, like very intense, almost like that classic blueprint that trailers do now, where it's like
A lot of dun dun.
a lot of like that stuff. And like when I think of Star Wars trailers, I don't usually think about that. So that threw me a bit, and that's fine. It's a trailer. It's trailer music. Like Solo had weird music in the first trailer, and I wound up liking that. So not a big deal. Just a little nitpick. Don't cancel me or whatever. But I liked how it started because it had a very adventure feel, like the classic Indiana Jones Star Wars, just getting out of it in the nick of time. You know,
Mhm.
it's closing thin, it's getting thin, and then they get bailed out at this last second. I'm like, that's awesome. That's classic Lucas, classic Star Wars. That's right. Finger on the pulse. I love that.
Mhm.
The Asajj Ventress thing, I sort of like when I saw that, it was already after people blew it up online. So I like knew she was in it. So I'm like, okay, there she is. I hear the voice. It's clearly Nika Futterman back doing it, which is awesome. But I didn't like necessarily bother me that much. I haven't read Dark Disciple. I did believe I knew that the character had died. But I'm sure they're going to figure it out. And it was smart of them to have the, you know, calm down button ready with that published article, because they knew that was going to create a storm. So good for them to know that, whether that was Dan Brooks or whoever over at Lucasfilm on StarWars.com. But I enjoyed the action a lot. I know people are wondering, like, oh, who is that? You know, is Tech alive? We are in this world. I mean, we're doing it right now with the Bad Batch. Like, oh, the characters coming back to life that were dead. You know, that seems to be a new thing. I don't necessarily love it because I think sometimes it's done too much, and then it becomes a thing where it's like, well, you know, I just watched a character die in a very dramatic way, but maybe it won't matter in a few years.
No one's ever really gone, John.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
When John dies, his grave is going to say, "No one's ever really
Oh
gone."
man, that some of those lines when people use them in whatever context. But overall, I thought it was a really action-packed, fun trailer, and I'm excited to watch the show. I'm glad it's closing out. I feel like it's had a nice run, and that's coming from a guy who doesn't really like clones. I'm not a huge Clone Wars fan, and I still was able to endear myself to the Bad Batch and worry about them. So here I am worrying about 5 clones and their fate and all of that comes with it. So they've done a good job in telling me the story, because when I go into something, especially knowing it's the final season, we don't know what the future of those characters is, and I have some sense of concern for them, because there are, you know, there's 5 of them. There's a chance they're not going to make it out. We'll see. But I hope for a happy ending for them. But ultimately, I thought it was a good trailer, and it got me excited to watch the series. So that's, in the end, that's all that matters. What about you?
Excellent. I do have to add that Brad Rao, supervising director, executive producer of the series, did like make those comments, and StarWars.com did add a sentence in between the quotes that says, and he makes it clear that her return will honor the prior tales, including the book in which the character apparently perishes. So they added that apparently, which to me says she didn't die. Because why would they write apparently? That's a little weird.
It's wild.
Like they would just say the character perished.
Yeah.
Right? You're a writer, John. You're a writer, John. What do you think about them saying apparently?
Well, yeah, that's why that's why I love Snoke's the shot of Snoke's dead face in The Last Jedi. Rian Johnson's like, I just want to make sure, you know, he was cut in half, but Darth Maul also was. I just want to make sure everyone knows this guy's dead.
Well, that was my argument with the Fennec thing. When you guys were talking about like, oh, she's dead, I was like, they didn't show her face. Like Snoke, they showed the face, they showed the body. It's rule of thumb.
How many times are they gonna hoodwink us to the point where someone will be like literally blown up, like the Death Star was, into dust, and we'll be like, well, the dust is still there.
You mean like Phasma, who went into the trash compactor and then somehow got out of it before the whole planet exploded?
And we didn't see her die in The Last Jedi, even though she fell through fire and a broken ship. And I mean, Gwendolyn Christie could come back. I'd be cool with that.
She did.
Yeah.
But I've
like
been wrong before.
we're at the point now where we need to, not even we need to see Ben Solo vanished, death, Force ghost, and there's people are like he can come back. And I'm like, well, then if that happens, then everyone who dies in Star Wars can come back. So Luke Skywalker can come back, Yoda can come back, and I'm not talking about as a Force ghost. It just come on back. If that kid can come back, the greatest Jedis of all time can come back. So it's a little they gotta, I don't know, they gotta be a little careful here. But anyway.
So to be honest, I'm not the biggest Bad Batch fan. That's just not my thing. But I have watched most of it, and I think I understand why people love it, and people love clones and the prequels, and especially as we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years, the prequel fans have really have this moment right now with the Clone Wars and this.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really happy for people to get what they want with more Bad Batch coming. And I know that it's going to play obviously into the bigger stories that we're going to see. So it's important to just know what's going on and who's who. I did notice that these dates lead up to May 4th, but they're not on May 4th. So that makes me interested to see what they're going to do for May 4th. Now, I think May 4th this year falls on a Saturday. So they might not premiere anything on a Saturday, because that would be kind of a weird time to premiere it unless they do it like the Friday night before.
Yeah, May 4th is a Saturday.
Yeah, so maybe this is them celebrating it without celebrating it. But I am interested to see where this series ends. I thought the trailer was well done. It's super serious and typical of, like John said, with all like the wow and like the dun 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 and like the pauses, and everybody has that look in the trailer. We used to joke around about this with the live action ones too, is like they make those looks at the camera that they're like, oh my god, what's coming? Oh, and like slow push in. Like they do a really good job of cutting these trailers together to make them like look very, very epic.
Yeah.
I think John will be happy because it seems like all these characters are going to die, and he's always for
all right. So we're just going to paint a narrative now. That's what we're doing.
At the end of these stories, John just thinks everybody should.
In the year of our Lord, George Lucas, 2024, we're going to start painting narratives now. That's what's happening.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm excited for Bad Batch fans. Buckle up. I'm sure Hasbro's going to make a ton of Bad Batch figures. We know that's coming because it's easy to make a clone. But yeah, I'm good with this.
What do you think? What do you think they're gonna do? Well, I mean, I guess we'll wait to watch the show. But like, what are they gonna do with Omega? Like young character. Like, I don't think they're gonna kill Omega in the show or anything like that. So like, I'm curious what the future of that character is, because everyone, even like when Bad Batch first came out, they're like, Omega's gonna pop up in the Mandalorian as Boba Fett's sister, and she's going to be in the book of Boba Fett, and it hasn't happened. So I wonder if that's going to continue, or do you think they're going to give Omega like a send off? What are your inklings on that, if you have any?
I could see her going into another show. I just don't know what that show would be. Like, could she show up in Ahsoka? Like, what is that? Where could she show up next? It would be interesting if she died so young, but I mean, don't put anything past Star Wars. They kill everyone.
They're wars, I'm telling you.
Yeah, they kill everyone. Now on to some happier stories, which who doesn't like a happy story about Daisy Ridley? I love Daisy Ridley.
She's wonderful.
She has been making the rounds for her film coming out on January 26th, which would be tomorrow as of tonight. But if you're listening to this on Friday, coming out today, Sometimes I Think About Dying. Now, I just said delightful happy, and that's the name of her film. But in being that it's her film title, Sometimes I Think About Dying, she does talk a lot about Star Wars as she's making these rounds. And we have 2 interviews this week with her, with Variety and Inverse.com. I'm going to kick it off with the Variety one. They did talk to her about the film, which I found she answered it in a very interesting way, which we can talk about, John. They asked her, you're reprising your role as Rey in the new Star Wars movie directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. How will the franchise's first female filmmaker impact the series? And Rey said, the short answer is, I don't know. I'm excited to do the job, but not because Sharmeen is a woman, which I found it as an interesting answer. Her documentaries are amazing. Her idea for the story is cool as beep. No spoilers, but she gave me a rundown on the entire story. If it weren't amazing, I'd be like, okay, call me in 5 years, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
She then goes on to answer about if it would be weird for her to continue Star Wars without Adam Driver, John Boyega, or Oscar Isaac. And she said, no, because I don't know what is what or who is who in this movie. So much has happened for me since the Skywalker saga. I feel like I've grown up. When I first started, I was 20. I was the youngest on set. It took me the first 2 Star Wars films to feel worthy of being there. Now I'm in my 30s, which this kind of makes me laugh because she's 31. So she's like, I'm in my 30s. I'm like, you are, but it's early 30s. The whole thing feels quite different. I've been able to work with other filmmakers, and hopefully I've gotten better as a performer. So John, for these, what are your thoughts on these? Especially the thing that stuck out to me is she just said, I'm excited to do the job, but not because Charmine is a woman. I'm assuming that's in response to all the craziness that's been going on about that mistaken quote.
Yeah, I also think Daisy does not, like, she is all about standing up for people's rights, and we've seen her do that
Yes.
plenty. So she clearly, shows where she stands with things. But also at the same time, I don't think she buys into, what people call like virtue signaling or whatever, or like, basically what Twitter's like. She's a professional actor, and she sees this person as a very good director.
She doesn't play the victim of things. She just tells it as it is.
Exactly. And that's why she's perfect
Sure.
for the role of Rey. Like, she has gone through a lot, the same way Rey did. And I think they have a lot of similarities on their sort of paths, how she started as a nobody and she came out being somebody. Now she's got the franchise on her back, the same way Rey has the fate of the galaxy on her back. So I actually like the answer. I know people are going to take that and fortify anti, Obey
Rhetoric.
Chinoy arguments or whatever.
Yeah.
But also, if you read between the lines on this, another part of it I find interesting is her saying that Obey Chinoy gave her the rundown of the entire story. And we know that Stephen Knight is still typing away at the script. So does this mean there's already an ending for this movie in place? Because she hasn't confirmed or denied she's going to be in more movies. So I have to assume Obey Chinoy is only tied to this one movie. So that means she's only talking about the story of this one movie. So this movie has an ending. So think about TFA. It's Luke, it's Rey going to Luke and holding out the lightsaber. So this movie has that already. She knows how this story is going to end. She knows what Rey's ending is going to be before the blue text comes up and the Star Wars hits, and we all walk out of the theater smiling and happy until we go online. So I like that, but I also find it interesting now that Stephen Knight is I almost always say Stephen Wright because I love that comedian, the classic comedian Stephen Wright. But Stephen Knight is just plugging away at this story, which means, has this story always been in place, but they're looking for the right writer, sort of like how, when they brought Kasdan in for Empire, and Jedi, that sort of thing. So that's interesting, but also makes me feel good that they apparently have something concrete enough that they're like, we're sticking with this blueprint, which feels more like they are learning from mistakes of, we're just gonna pass the baton to you now, and then you can pass it here. It seems like they're making proper steps here. So that's my takeaway from that. And then the other one about the actors, I can't take anything from this answer because I do think they're coming back, at least John and Oscar Isaac. But I do like what she had to say about growing up too. It was sweet. I like where she's at.
Yeah, I think she always has really honest, genuine answers to things.
Yes.
I have noticed in the past few interviews she's been getting the same questions, so she's been giving basically the same answers to things, like, "Oh, I was young back then. I'm older now." I did like her answer to the Adam, John, and Oscar answer of no, because I don't know what is what and who is who. Because that's, like you said, it's her answering without lying. Because she's like, I don't know what the story is. I only know the outline, even though conversations could have taken place or, they're texting her about it. I think, just like you said, John, there's no way they're not in this movie. Like that's a lot to explain. If 15 years later, none of these characters that we knew 15 years prior are around her. I mean, unless she's on a different planet by herself, which I highly doubt. How is she going to have R2-D2 there? Because you know he's going to be there. C-3PO is going to be there. Chewbacca is going to be there. BB-8. So you're going to have all these other evergreen characters and not have the two guys that were with her pretty much the sequel trilogy, if not the last movie that she was in that you saw her.
And especially, Lacey, do you remember that clip of John Boyega watching the trailer for TFA?
Yeah, someone posted every once in a while, and it just makes me kind of tear up a little bit because he was just so hyped.
So hyped, and he jumped over the couch.
One that Daisy cried. Daisy cried the same thing. The same.
Yes, and Oscar was like, "My uncle loves Star Wars." They were all excited, but him jumping over the couch with his brother or friend, whoever it was, because he saw himself with a lightsaber fighting Kylo Ren. And we, remember where where the story went with Rise of Skywalker, clearly Force sensitive. I guarantee Kathleen Kennedy, when she had that meeting with John Boyega, similar to the one that you had mentioned, she had the lunch with Daisy Ridley, when they smooth things over, I guarantee she's like, "We want you to come back and be a Jedi." Like, he's not going to say no to that, right?
No, because that's what he wanted from day one.
That's what I'm saying.
They ended that way, and that's why years ago, I believe it was 2020, when he was asked about it, he said, "I'd come back for JJ." Like JJ would be the reason I'd come back. JJ and Kathleen, right? That's what he said. So, if he has one half of that, I'll come back for it. Ask him to come back and say JJ comes on as an executive producer, which is possible. He does it a lot where he produces things. I don't see why John wouldn't do it. Plus, again, he's her other half in all these movies. Not romantically, obviously, as a friendship, but like they're the pair. The first movie they're together, the second movie they're trying to find each other, third movie they're together, and he's
kind of good friends in real life.
Which, by the way, I've been watching Frozen 2 nonstop because my daughter's obsessed with it, and the Anna Elsa relationship of Frozen 2 is basically Rey and Finn in the Rise of Skywalker, where like she's trying to go on this mission by herself the whole time, and she has magical powers, and he's like just trying to follow her around and be like, "Hey, don't do this on your own. Don't go alone. Don't do this." And yeah, it's basically.
And he keeps getting messed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is both those movies came out the same year, 2019.
Yeah. Did you know my daughter, side note, just is getting to Little Mermaid, and she watched.
Oh, that's a good one.
She watched the animated one, and then she started watching the live action one, which I hadn't seen that, but
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, she seems drawn to that. So,
I love that.
Little Disney update from our daisies, I guess.
I've been trying to introduce her to more, but she's Frozen 2. Frozen 2.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Johnny's was Secret Life of Pets 2. Was his?
Oh yeah, you said that like a year or two ago. You're like
Harrison Ford, baby.
You're like, I'm watching Secret Life of Pets again.
I could probably recite a lot of that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I can too with Frozen 2. And then also she listens to the soundtrack all the time too. Like we have a speaker in the kitchen. So when the TV's not on, that's playing Into the Unknown.
You gotta get her one of those microphones. So she can sing.
Yeah. She just started singing the other day. Yesterday I had it on. And there's this song with Christoph where he sings Lost in the Woods, and she's sitting next to me, and all of a sudden she starts singing it, and it's the first time I've heard her sing, and I was just like, and she knew the word, like she perfectly timed it when he started singing. I was like, oh my god,
she's gonna go on America's Got Talent.
I don't know, she's doing that like little kid, like not really on tune, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, she's 2.
Yeah, she's 2 and 3-4 months. Anyway, as I was saying,
yes.
Rey, hearing Daisy talk about how excited she is about this story and how good it is, it has to be good because she said it so many times, and it reminds me of a true crime, like when they're interviewing the person that's done it or hasn't done it, and they have to stick to their story. Like she's been interviewed so many times, and she keeps giving the same answer every time. Like, oh, I've only seen an overview. Oh, I've only been explained what the story is, but I wouldn't take it if I didn't like it. I wouldn't like it. It's kind of like what we said years ago when people kept saying satisfied. Fans are going to be satisfied. We were like,
JJ, that was his word. Yeah.
They all used it. Daisy used it. He used it. And we were like, what does that mean?
I just think you're going to love
it. You're going to love it. Are you going to read the next quote in the voice?
Incredible. Oh,
All right.
his advice?
Yeah. So going into the next story here from inverse.com. Again, they interviewed Daisy Ridley about her movie that's coming out today, the 26th, as in the people that are listening to this now, but people that are watching live tomorrow. Sometimes I think about dying. She got asked again about Star Wars, and she goes a little bit into what JJ said to her, because a lot of her answers in these interviews have been about her experience overall, which I really enjoyed listening to,
Oh my God.
of the craziness of it all, how it affected her mentally, physically, the grief of it ending as quickly as it began. So I'm not surprised that she's jumping back in easily with a good story, because she talks about how it's such a big part of her life, and then also about how where she is now and how that experience is now going to be different than it was the first time. But she does give some advice that JJ gave her, and I'll let John read the quote here.
Well, I like that he said understand the scale.
You got to read it like him.
Well, I'm going to read the longer quote. I'll do the longer quote as JJ, but I haven't done JJ on the podcast since Greg Grunberg was on. Which, by the way, Greg, you got to come back and you got to let us know what JJ thought of the impression. You got to come back. Bring JJ. Let's make it a party. Let's do it. But yeah, he said understand the scale, and then he said, let's see if I can do JJ right now.
Come on, do it.
This is not a role in the movie. This is a religion for some people. It changes things on a level that is inconceivable.
The fact that he said inconceivable is literally J.J. Abrams. It's always this big word at the end of his sentence.
His last word's always very long. Yeah.
Yeah, he always has to think of this like crazy adjective.
Incredible.
Inconceivable.
Howard, I literally broke my back saving Harrison Ford. It's incredible.
I will never forget. You were doing that for months and months and months and months. And then we went to Chicago in 2019, and I was sitting up front for the panel, and he came out, and the moment he opened up his mouth, it was like you were talking. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? He was just like, thanks for having me, Steven. This is such a great audience. Such a great audience. And I was like, oh my God,
you know
it's
what?
happening.
I think I figured out like why JJ talks the way he does. It's either one of two things. One, and I haven't researched this, he's the youngest kid in his family, and he has a big family, and he very rarely has a chance to talk. So he has to get as much as he can in a little short period of time. And that's stuck with him. Or what I really think is the case, his mind works so fast that he's already moving on to the next thought.
At
So
light speed, if you will.
He has to vomit out what's on his mind and get it out so he can move on. So he's always just like, he does his like, pauses, and he thinks, and then it's like,
it honestly looks like, some type of AI that's writing what he's answering, because it's like, da-da-da, and then it da-da-da, da-da-da, and it just keeps answering. But yeah, so she went on to talk about her experiences and how it's really hard sometimes to be in these big movies and for friends and family to understand what you're going through. So when she had to leave the cast, it was like really heartbreaking, because she became friends with these people and she was grieving. And then she also went through a lot of health problems, to the point that, by the time The Last Jedi opened, she had such bad anxiety that she developed holes in her stomach wall.
Oh.
Now, I myself definitely suffer from anxiety, but never to that point. I feel for her. I really do. And I can only imagine the stress and weight she felt carrying, these movies, or being a part of such a big franchise that people felt she was carrying the movies. But yeah, she said that practicing self-care is super important. But she was pumped when everything ended, because she got to kind of just be. And now that they're starting up again, she gets to do it kind of on her own terms. Is there anything else you took away from this, Jen?
Yeah, well, I was surprised because, I deal with anxiety too. And I'm still trying to figure out how to just like conquer it. But
I think we all are at this point in time. I think we all got anxiety after 2020. Not that that's belittling yours or anything.
No, yeah. I mean, mine's worse than it's ever been. So I got to try to figure that out. But So I liked her saying that. This reminds me of the type of stuff that you would hear Carrie Fisher talk about her, mental health all the time. She was very
Right.
candid
Right.
about it, and that I thought was just wonderful how she always did that. And she would bring levity to it and allow people to laugh about it. But so I was surprised when I saw online, everybody was just talking about the Variety quote about how she's like, the story is the blank, And I'm like, how do people miss this inverse interview? Because she's taking you inside what she felt like going through this experience for 5 years, from a 20-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old doing her first big movie, to how her family perceived her, how her friends perceived her, how the audience perceived her. And we look at it from this lens of Star Wars actor. Oh my God, she got yelled at online, like poor Daisy. And there's so many layers to it. And she's opening up in this interview, basically letting people know, I was physically ill by the end of when The Last Jedi came out. I needed to distance myself. It's tough. If it's a lonely feeling, her
She left
saying,
social during that time too, with the
yeah,
anxiety.
but for her saying, the quote, for friends and family or any people who see something in a slightly different way than you do, there's this projection of you and you in that world and how it feels to
Right.
do this and that. And you're like, well, actually, I'm just a human being separate from that. So she's in a great place now. And she said it in the other interview. So like sort of connecting what she's saying about how, she is 30, 31 now, and she's more confident in who she is. I think she understands more of who she is. And that's the part of growing up that's cool. And it took me longer, to figure that out. I feel like I still am. But her just putting this out there, I think, is really important. I really think people should read this interview more than anything, because it's this actor who is now, for the sake of arguments, the new, say, Luke Skywalker, who's going to launch this new era of Star Wars movies alongside, obviously, the Mando stuff. And she's just putting herself out there saying, this is what I was going through, and I came out on the other side of it. And I like that she, brought up the advice that JJ gave her, saying, this is a religion to people. You will always be asked about this. And here we are. She's promoting this other movie, and what does she get asked about? Star Wars. And every actor who's been in Star Wars gets asked about Star Wars, whether you had a 5-minute role or you are the lead of,
or
an
if you
upcoming
maybe were
movie.
going to be in it.
Matt Smith. Yeah, right. So I really admire her for opening up about this. She had no reason to have to do that, but she did it, and I think that's really cool. And you could tell there's a new confidence in her. And compare that, think about the performances we got from her in the sequel trilogy, where she's telling us in this interview, for the first two, I didn't feel confident about myself. I felt like I was killing Star Wars. I felt like I was doing a bad job. I finally felt good with the third one. Now, a few years later, she's done other work. She's grown up a bit. There's a new
She's
confidence. Married. There's a new confidence. She's probably tailored her craft a bit more. I think we are going to see the best of her yet. I think we're going to see the best of Rey yet, paired with the fact that there's not the shadow of the big three and the legacy stuff hanging over her, like Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher. Now it's her time to take the reins. I'm very interested to see what we're going to get with her. She seems confident with the story. She said she's back early because of that. Granted, 12.5 million, bring me back too. But
Right? Yeah.
I like everything that she had put out here, and I'm very confident that we're going to see something really special from her from a performance perspective. So if you loved Rey in the sequel trilogy, I think we're in store for something pretty special that might even be better than what we got in those movies. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of these movies she's been doing lately are getting nothing but praise for her acting and her performances. So she's coming into it, like she said, a better performer than she was when she was just starting out. And I think we're going to see that reflected in the movies as well. I look forward to it. I'm really rooting for her for everything that she does. She went through a lot with the sequel trilogy.
Oh
Not
yeah.
just saying, with the anxiety and everything. It's just a big, big blockbuster franchise. And that's a lot of stress and just attention. And I'm sure just being on all the time. We talk about it when we go to celebrations and stuff. It's like you just want to make sure that everybody has a good experience that interacts with you. Um, and you just always have to be on, in a good mood. You don't want to be seen the wrong way. And she talks about it, like what you were just saying, John, how people take anything she does and they could pull it apart and be like, oh, well, she didn't smile here, so she must hate Star Wars. And she's like, what? I was just coming out of the bathroom. Like,
Oh,
it could literally
I
be
can't
anything.
imagine what it's like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
an actor. Like I I had an interaction at Celebration one time, and this guy was like, "Oh, I have a YouTube channel. I'd love to, have you on or come on your show." And I was like, "Dude, yeah." I'm like, "Email us." I gave him our email address. I'm like, "Shoot us an email." And I'm not gonna say his name or anything like that. And it was like a couple years ago, but he didn't email us. He sent us like a message on Facebook Messenger, and I don't check those. Like, rarely do I check those. I mean, we have to
Sure.
probably be better at it. And we didn't write back for like a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, because I just didn't see it. And
Mhm.
he said, "I'm just really, really disappointed to see like your true side, and that really insulted that you didn't write me back."
What?
And
When did this happen?
yeah, and I wrote him back.
Wow.
I wrote him back, and I was like, "Hey, man, I remember meeting you. I asked you to email us. We have jobs, we have kids. Like, we do the best we can. I don't check our Facebook Messenger that like at all ever."
Mm.
And I didn't hear back from him. So now this guy's out there thinking that I was this jerk who blew him off. And so times that by 5 billion, and that's what these like actors have to deal with. And I can't even wrap my head around it. I can't.
Yeah, and they get it from like, hey, can I take a picture of you right now when you feel disgusting coming off an airplane? Can I take a picture of you in the bathroom? Can I take a picture of you in
Oh,
the,
the
after
paparazzi
dinner?
too
Yeah.
is
Well, I'm
bananas.
saying fans too go up and ask people
Fans,
like, hey,
yeah.
can I get a picture? Can I get a
The
selfie?
autograph seekers who smacked Mark Hamill in the face or whatever. Remember
Yeah,
that?
it's a lot. You have to be aware of who's around you at all times, and I couldn't imagine living that life because some days you just want to go to the supermarket in yoga pants, and I couldn't imagine being worried about what I look like every day, all day, every moment. Because people are really mean online. That being said, we do have another story to get to, and that would be the recent Hasbro Pulse unveilings and figures. So they had a fan stream this past week, and they announced a couple new figures and some in the pipeline as well, including the vintage collection Sabine Wren and Chopper, which includes 2 Lothcats.
Oh,
We have the Black Series Droideka. I always say that wrong.
I think that's
Droideka?
right. Yeah,
Droideka?
yeah, the destroyers. Yeah.
I know what they are. I just say the name wrong.
Well, I
We have
always say it like how the Viceroy says it.
what does he say? How does he
They're
say
no match for a droid, that guys.
it? Can you do that again?
They're no match for a droid, that guys.
Oh, jeez.
They know I was a bad impression, but I think everyone knows what part I was talking about.
Sure. And then
Yeah.
you have the 6-inch Black Series Grand Admiral Thrawn from Ahsoka. You have the Black Series Phase 1 Clone Trooper, because we can always have more clone troopers. Then we have the Vintage Collection Clone Commander Rex, which I feel like we've gotten Commander Rex so many times. But this
Yeah.
one's inspired by his appearance in the Bad Batch. And we also have the Vintage Collection The Mandalorian Mines of Mandalore. Again, another Mandalorian. I really want to know how many they've done. And we have Grogu, 3.75-inch Grogu figure inspired by the character's appearance in season 3 of Mandalorian, as well as Axe Woves, both a 3.75 version, as well as who's this other character's name? I forget what he's called. I'm blanking, but that's okay. We're going to keep going. 3.75-inch Luke Skywalker X-Wing pilot figure inspired by A New Hope. They also
Mhm.
had some pipeline stuff that I can look up, but mostly it was stuff that, per usual, with the exception, I believe, of Sabine Wren, everything's not coming out until 2025.
Which is just
We're in
nuts.
January of 2024.
Yeah. If you want to follow, I mean, he can really be a chop breaker, but if you really want to follow an account that just goes off on Hasbro, Steel Saunders, that guy, Steel Wars, he's always just like
Yak Face is
lampooning them.
also really good with updates as well.
Yak Face, well, for
Yak
updates, yeah. But if you want someone who's gonna vent about the frustrations of things, Steel's pretty funny with that.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of crazy. Sorry, they're coming out now. The only one that's not coming out till spring 2025 is a Grand Admiral Thrawn. I misspoke. I apologize. Everything else is coming out as of yesterday at 1 p.m. But yeah, the Thrawn, which is probably the most recent figure, I would say, is coming out next year. So it's kind of crazy that we have to wait once again, especially fans that have just watched Ahsoka want to build out their collections, especially because they just released all those Ahsoka figures, now have to wait to finish their collection with Thrawn. And they are yet to touch anything seemingly from the sequel trilogy. I know they just released another Finn figure, or talking about releasing a Finn figure. But other than that, like, there's so many characters and figures that we haven't gotten from the sequel trilogy that I'm still waiting for. And I know when I spoke to Hasbro last time, I said to them, I was like, look, I'm going to make a request. Can we get a Ben Solo, please? Can we please get a Ben Solo figure? And they were like, oh, we've heard that before. We know that's a fan favorite and people want it. I'm like, yeah, so please make it. And I will continue to say that. I said it with Rey's lightsaber for years until they made it.
What's your favorite out of this reveal?
I gotta say the Sabine is pretty awesome with the 2 Loth cats and the chopper. That's a pretty cool set, especially the Loth cats. I'm hoping they make more Loth cat merch. I haven't seen.
Is that Black Series or is that the 3.75?
That is the 3.75 vintage collection.
So is that sort of the new, like, if kids were going to play with them, would that be like the new, like, Power of the Force? Because those were 3.75s. Is vintage collection considered that new, like that? That's that in a sense, I guess.
I honestly couldn't answer that question because I'm not really sure, in the sense of I didn't collect stuff back then, so I only know current. But I would assume they're comparable to that because they are that size.
Yeah, I like the Grogu.
Because, and some people only collect the 3.75 and some people only collect the 6-inch. Yeah.
I think I like the Grogu because I feel like every Grogu toy that's come out has been like this big Grogu thing. And like
I like the big Grogus though.
To have the little Grogu though, for the action figure element of it, I think is very cool because it reminds me of the Power of the Force Yoda that came with the backpack that you would put on Luke. And he's like this little tiny dude with his little cane, and now you have Grogu with his little pod. I think it's really cool. So,
that was something they re-released recently. A couple of years ago at New York Comic Con, they'd announced they were really re-releasing the archive of the Yoda with the backpack and the cane. Pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. They said that they're celebrating anniversaries this year with the prequel stuff. But I feel like we're getting so much prequel content. Where's my sequel content? Where is it, John?
I bet that maybe they will release it just in time for the Rey movie that takes place 15 years after.
Well, 2025 is the anniversary of The Force Awakens, so maybe they're waiting to release sequel stuff for The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I wonder, have we figured out
be the best year ever?
What anniversaries matter most to them? Because it's like there's
I feel like Force Awakens matters.
But I mean, for years though, like 10-year, I guess is okay, right? But 25 seems like a good number. 50 is huge. In 2027, 50 years for Star Wars. But then they're doing 40th anniversaries for the latest celebrations of the original trilogy. Right. So I don't know what's.
I would assume it's probably 10, 20, 25, 40. Yeah, 50. Because they did 50th for Lucasfilm. That's what it seems like anyway. Although it really depends on what their marketing plans are. Because if they're like, hey, we need something this year. And they're like, well, it's the 30th anniversary of this. They're like, okay, let's do it.
Because now it's the 25th anniversary. Like the stickers, the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace is out now. You see those stickers?
Yes. Yes. That was the anniversary that they're celebrating.
We should just do like arbitrary. Be like the 33rd anniversary of whatever. Like, because we got robbed. I almost wore my Star Wars Celebration Empire Strikes Back 40th shirt, the celebration that never happened. Like we got robbed. We got robbed from celebrating the Empire Strikes Back at Celebration. The Belgian guys built all the sets. Man. And it's just like, could we just do like in Japan, could we just do like the 40 whatever anniversary of Empire Strikes Back? 45th?
Yeah. I'm just thinking about how like we definitely like just lost a year of our lives in 2020. I think back to that when it was like everything was canceled and just like nothing happened, and we were all like, "What is going
You
on?"
like being
And
home though.
I do like being home, but it's different when just everything gets canceled. It's one
Yeah.
thing if I want to stay home. I shouldn't. That doesn't mean everybody should have to stay home.
You want the option to do stuff. You just don't want to do stuff.
Why do you say that?
No, I don't know. Because I feel like you like being
You're
home.
making it sound like I'm just sitting at home all the time. If I have things to do or I get invited somewhere, I'm gone. I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
I was at your
Invite
birthday
me.
party, wasn't
You
I?
haven't invited me anywhere.
No. Where do you want to go?
I don't know. Denny's.
I don't want to go to Denny's. Ugh. No, absolutely not. Well, that's it for the news. This is
Yeah.
your time. If you're interested in joining us for a little chat here at the end of the episode for Ask the Resistance, this is your time to put those questions into the chat with hashtag Ask the Resistance. And we're going to head over there right now. And by there, I mean still here, but to the next segment. Yes.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Well, Anakin, they don't matter apparently. Because if you study and apply yourself, even with 0 midichlorians, you too can be a Jedi. I'm kidding. Jeez. All right. Let's get to some questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can in the next like 8 minutes or so.
Sure.
We will start things off with Kenneth Craley. And you're
I'm
doing
clicking it. Stop. Stop clicking.
All right. Kenny, what's up, buddy? Love the Superman shirt you're rocking, my man. He said, first off, love you guys. Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it, man. He said,
Kenny.
how are you guys keeping up with the current Star Wars canon, comics, novels, and video games? Hashtag Ask the Resistance. Me, not very well. I did like the High Republic did not connect with me, unfortunately. Comics, it depends on the comic. I may check out that new Darth Maul run with Palpatine. It's Palpatine. Come on, it's only 4 issue
Oh, it looks
series.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. There were some Vader ones I checked out. So it depends on the comic for me. Like the Kylo Ren one was interesting. I didn't love it. And video games, I have a bunch of them. I just don't play them a lot. The one I played the most was the Lego Skywalker Saga, which I know is canon, of course, but it's not like Jedi Survivor or anything. So I still have to play the first Fallen Order. But Lacey, you were a Battlefront player, right? Is that where you?
Oh, I love Battlefront.
Yeah. What about anything new?
No, I had a kid 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So now I have 2 kids. I have a baby who is 2 months old, and I have a 2-year-old. So between them, I don't have a lot of extra time right now. I'm hoping in a couple months I do. But right now I do not. So I am going to be honest. I'm not really up to date with any of the comics or novels or video games. I have a very big to be read list sitting on my desk here, but hopefully I'll get to them in the next year when I have a little bit more time and I'm able to sleep. That's kind of prioritized right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see the new Outlaws game and what that's all about.
Oh, yeah.
But I do miss playing Battlefront all the time. It's just like a different feel. I'm not a big Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Jedi game person. I tried to play it, guys. I'm being honest. I really, really tried. And maybe I should do a play along where I try to play with everybody online,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple, an hour a week. We try to get through the game together. But I get so frustrated at like the dumbest stuff in those games. There was one part where you had to like have him climb up a wall and then jump, but then also latch on to the next wall. Like he had to jump kind of like a squirrel, like over to the next wall, and you had to hit the button at the same time so he'd grab it. And it was all timing. And I couldn't get it. It took me like 10 minutes, couldn't get it. I shut it off.
The parkour?
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I know. I heard a rumor that the title of the third game.
Okay.
This is exclusive reveal, just so you understand.
Oh, so this is a joke. Okay, go ahead.
Why do you ruin the theatrics of everything?
Because
You're like, because we put up a poll about it. It is, from what I understand, going to be called Jedi Hard with a Vengeance.
I don't get it. What's the joke?
Jedi Hard with a Vengeance.
Still don't get it.
That was the third Die Hard movie. Die Hard with a Vengeance. Anyway, thank you. I'm here all night. Next up is, thank you, Kenny. Next up is Adam Furley. How are you, Adam? Adam said, what did you like most about the sequel trilogy? Also, what do you think could have been done better? Lacey, you love the sequel trilogy,
I
especially
do.
TFA. What do you love most about it? And what do you think they could have done better?
How much time do you have, Adam? First of all, thanks for your question. It means a lot that you're taking part in the show. Thank you so much. What I loved the most about it is Rey. I thought she was a great character. I thought it was a great introduction into the series of someone new and fresh and different. She's also the first woman Jedi that gets featured in the film, and that was so meaningful to me. I think BB-8 was beautifully done. When that droid came out on stage in 2015 at Anaheim, it was bananas. It was crazy. People went nuts because we all collectively thought it was CG. And when that thing rolled out, we were all like, what? Oh my gosh. We
Very
had
cool.
BB-8 at our panel in London.
Yes, we did.
Love BB-8. What could have been done better? Oh, and there's tons of other stuff I could keep going on. Like, you know, the CG was done well. The puppetry was done well. The creatures with Neil Scanlon were done well. The, you know, Babu Frick and everything. What could be done differently? I think overall, just the storyline of where the movies were going across 3 films. I think if one person had written all 3 and they had a cohesive storyline, it didn't feel like they were jumping storytelling wise. It would have just, I think, been more smooth. I think the transition was a little choppy. It reminded me very much of in elementary school when you do those projects where someone writes the beginning and then they pass you the paper and you write the middle and then you pass the paper and then someone writes the end. The story is there and yeah, sure, it makes sense kind of, but you can tell it's in 3 different voices. So I think they could have done that better. I don't get the whole Palpatine thing. I still stand by that. It just doesn't make sense to me that all of a sudden he's like, he's back. Whoa. And then I'm very much against Ben Solo dying, which we all know this.
Mm-hmm.
John, what do you think?
What I liked most, I think the sequel trilogy had the most well-rounded, in terms of how they were produced and executed, lightsaber fights than the other 2.
Ooh, good answer. Didn't you just talk about this?
Yeah. And I'm not talking about the big moments like the Vader I'm your father stuff. And I understand people love Anakin versus Obi-Wan and Revenge of the Sith. I still don't understand why, but I just really liked how they were shot. I liked the environments, how grueling some of it was, especially the Death Star one with Daisy and Adam Driver. How raw and real they felt, like Rey's like cramping her hand, like it just felt like a real fight. And there was dialogue again. Real. They brought dialogue back, and you know, the one in the woods felt very fairy tale whimsical, and I like that type of environment. And the one in Last Jedi in the throne room was very cool. So I thought the lightsaber fights were the best in the sequel trilogy. And then, yeah, there's plenty of other elements too, but for the sake of time, what could they have done better? Same answer as Lacey. I think, you know, I think most people would agree having a plan would have been a better way to go.
Yeah, I feel like Finn was just a throwaway in Last Jedi.
Finn and Hux both got just
thrown
leveled. Yeah. Even Poe, like people say Poe had a big arc in Last Jedi. I feel like he was stuck on a ship almost the whole movie after the beginning. He didn't really get to be Poe that much. Yeah. But just my opinion. Opinion alert. All right. I love that, you know, you could say things on a podcast, and if you like put it on social media, you'd have that whatever that is from Frozen or whatever with all the knives pointing at your face.
That's from Tangled, but yeah.
Tangled. Yeah, that one. All right. Next we have Frank Grande, who just pipes in with a little TRB. Do you guys know that you're awesome? And I appreciate all that you do. Thank you, Frank. Thank you very, very much.
Frank, thanks, buddy.
I hope we get to meet one day and hang out. And next we have Matt Lawless, who said, were you more surprised of Asajj Ventress's hairstyle or that she's alive? Alive. What about you, Lacey?
Alive. The hairstyle she has is on the cover of Dark Disciple. So the hairstyle has existed prior to her being in the show.
So
but
in the book, she has that hair in the,
Yeah.
in the story of that back. Yeah, there you
on
go.
the cover. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I think it's surprising that she's alive, especially because people were posting screenshots of books with timelines and stuff and like who's alive, who's not alive. And she's in the book saying she died. So gonna have to re-release that book.
Yeah, figure stuff out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Not envious of whoever has to do that.
Right.
Next up, we have Semperfi Danny, who said, "So does this mean we are seeing her in live action Ahsoka? Who, Asajj Ventress?
Yeah, I think that's what she's saying. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
That would be
What do you-
crazy.
Yeah, Ahsoka. I'm trying to think. Hmm.
That would be
'Cause I feel
crazy.
like-
I don't know how I'd feel about it.
I feel like Ahsoka is more of a Rebels sequel, and when I think of Asajj Ventress, I think of the Clone Wars.
Right.
Um,
It would just be a hard sell for me. But then again, I'm always the person that's wrong with that stuff where I'm like, I don't know how this is going to translate to live action. And then
And
I'm
also-
totally wrong. So
yeah, and also what has happened to Asajj from the Bad Batch timeline to Ahsoka, which is like 12 years after original trilogy, something like that, 10, 12
Yeah.
years. A lot of stuff's got to be filled in there. I think there's going to be a lot more Asajj Ventress stuff coming, maybe comics, books, before they decide where to have her land in a bigger medium. It's a good
Mhm.
question, though, Danny, for sure. I think all bets are off at this point, especially with, how they have to pivot with some things with, the Balin Skullhole scenario and all that. But a good
Mhm.
question, so thank you.
that's the big
Um,
pivot, right? The Balin stuff. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
I
I'm
don't know
glad
how they're gonna
Bray.
handle it.
I'm still so sad. Like Ray Stevenson crushed it. Oh,
He really did.
I've been talking
He was
about a
like
villain
the
problem
fan
in Star
favorite.
Wars forever, and they're like, here's everything you wanted, and then he passes away, and he doesn't get to see how awesome people saw it, received it. Damn. R.I.P. Punisher. All right. Next, we have Darth Snips, who in the Patreon chat today was talking about how excited she is to be able to join us live because it's been a while. So thank you, Snips. It's good to see you on here.
My girl Darth Snips.
So there is a story to this, Chewy. My co-host right here is a big part of that story. So that Chewy, I'll go get him for the sake of everyone seeing me in my pajamas, I guess. But
John's wearing pajama pants.
when you're live, baby. All right. At least people know I wear pants. So this is the co-pilot buddy Chewy, and he's electronic. My kids they're rough with Chewy, but get him on. There we go.
Do they love him though? Because that's all that matters.
They do love him, and he makes sounds and puts his arms up.
Yeah.
He sleeps if you put him on his back. You can see his eyes if they get revealed. They are the classic blue Chewy eyes. All right, buddy. Okay, so there he is. So before Lacey had her kids of her own, she had gotten one of these. That thing's not going to shut up now. You had gotten one of those in a Hasbro box or something of that nature.
No, I bought that one.
Oh, you bought it, and you're like, I don't want it. What am I going to do with this? Do you want it? Because I just had my son not that long before that.
Yeah, they had a big. You got to look out for them. They have big sales on Amazon from time to time where they're selling like Star Wars toys really cheap, and that one was like it was normally supposed to be like I think $60 or $70, and I got it for like 20. And I was like, I'd be stupid not to buy this. And I bought it, and I didn't have kids or anything. And I was like, John, do you think Johnny would want this? I feel like this could be a good toy for him. So
yeah, and he loved it. Now Daisy loves it. Anytime they come downstairs, it's Chewy time, and I always find him like disheveled on the ground. I'm like, that's exactly how I feel in the morning or right after.
There's wetness. He's been crying. You're like, how is this possible?
Yeah, and I'm so like I've always been this way since I was a kid. I like taking care of my toys. I don't like them breaking or losing their weapons, and I was like I'm combing his hair to fix it after they like mess him
Aw.
up, and then I put him back on the table. So yeah, that's the story
He's
of
meant
that.
to be played with.
Yeah. You better start. You better go to sleep.
He's still tired.
All right, let's do one more, two more,
Sure.
last two, quick.
Okay, go.
All right, we have Rebel Intelligence. Oh, he's snoring. He snores. See. Who is Asajj Ventress fighting? Is she fighting another Jedi? If so, who could the Jedi be?
Ooh, in the trailer. I have no idea who she's fighting, but I'm assuming it's a bad guy. I'm going to go ahead and say bad guy.
I'm gonna say Mace Windu. He's back. Let's bring them all
Ooh.
back.
Just everyone. Everyone's back.
Everyone's back. It's like Endgame. You remember how sad you were in Infinity War? Just kidding. They're all okay. All
Except
right.
Tony Stark.
No, I don't know. Rebel Intelligence. Your name is Intelligence. Why don't you let us know what you think? Who is she fighting? Or in the comments, everyone let us know who you think she's fighting. We'll find out soon enough. Maybe it's Merrick. Remember Merrick? All right. I'm in a silly mood today. All right, last one here. We have Bruno Pacobayaba. Oh, I'm sorry, Pacobayaba. I think I got it.
He's in Brazil.
Bruno, let me know.
What up?
And the final question of the day, Bruno said, "Hi, my friends. Won't we have an Ahsoka Disney gallery? Grande Abraco?" Oh. Good question. I don't know.
I think if they're going to do it, they're going to put it out on May the 4th.
Yeah,
That's the time to do it. And that's
and
an easy thing that they could put out that's like a one special thing.
Yeah, because I remember the Mandalorian, they probably went a little too hard, and they did like 10 of them or 8 of
Yeah.
them or something like that. Yeah,
I've been saying
think that'd be cool.
Acolyte's coming out May 4th, but it's the Saturday. I didn't realize it was a Saturday. So I don't think that's happening anymore.
No, I bet Acolyte's going to come out in like June or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like
But I think if we're going to get a gallery, it's coming out May the 4th.
Yeah. I would love to see one because you know there's probably going to be more of Ray Stevenson on there. You're going to see how they really shot this thing and how they brought Ezra to live action. There's a lot to learn, especially with Dave Filoni. Anytime there's a gallery and he talks, it's like wow. So I hope they do, Bruno. So you and me both, pal. But all right, we want to thank everybody for sending in questions. Keep them coming. Love it. Real quick reminder for patrons of TRB, in just a few minutes, we're heading over to Patreon for a spice run with one of our spice runners, David Probus. Very excited to podcast with him over there and pick his brain. He said he's going to be spicy, so we'll look forward to that. But we want to thank everybody for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. It means a great deal to us, whether you listen or watch the show live or you listen on your favorite podcast app. Make sure you're subscribed, rate us if you can, and spread the word. Tell your friends if they like Star Wars, if it's a coworker, a school classmate, whatever. Tell them about TRB, and let's grow the base because it's always a good time. As you can see here, if you join our live chats, it's always a fun time. For us, follow us on social media at TRB Podcasts. That includes Threads and Blue Sky, as those two duke it out. And then for me, well, James at Myra Trunks, hit him up. Let him know that you're thinking about him and you hope he feels better. So James, get better, get back here soon. So we aren't sure about the Monday show now. We might not have a Monday show. We'll keep everyone posted on that. But you get 2 episodes from us every week. So if it's one week, then you'll be all right. But for me, Johnny Hoey on social media and my movie pod, Just Like the Movies, we're doing American Pie next week, the original American Pie. Lacey, how about you?
People can find me on every social media channel at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran. I'm looking forward to talking with David on Patreon right after this. And then also just loving Star Wars. Rooting on the Chiefs.
Love it.
Let's go Super Bowl.
What?
I'm rooting for the Chiefs.
No, you're rooting
Chiefs
for the
and
Chiefs.
Lions.
You know what's so funny? One of my best friends, Mike, has been a Chiefs fan for like decades. And he's so frustrated now because people think he's on the bandwagon. And the Chiefs were horrible for such a long time.
Okay, but who cares? This is no different than Star Wars. If anybody joins at any time, who cares?
Oh, that's not what I'm saying at all.
No, but I'm saying to your friend Mike, who cares?
Oh, no. He doesn't care about other people joining. He thinks people think he just joined, and he's been a suffering Chiefs fan when they were terrible. It's like people who were the Patriots fans in 1995, but Anyway, we'll do our.
I want
sports
Chiefs
podcast after
Lions.
that.
That's who I'm hoping for. I
hope
want
the Lions win
Eminem
the Super Bowl.
versus Taylor Swift.
Lions have never won a Super Bowl. Let them win a Super Bowl. How about that?
I think it'd be awesome. Lions Chiefs.
Jared Goff. Let's go. All right. That's the end of our sports podcast. We want to thank everybody so much. We'll be back with you next time. So have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you all next time right here on the Resistance broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.
Probably. Yeah, should have had the outro ready. But yeah. Bye.